Where you at, New Orleans, and welcome to Dattitude. This is episode number 118 for 11/18/22. I'm Jim Derry along with my friend Jeff Duncan, and we're going to talk about all kinds of good things this morning. Of course, we're going to be focusing mostly on the Saints and their game against the Los Angeles Rams. We welcome your comments and questions here on Dattitude. We'll be on until about 10, maybe 10:10 if you're lucky, or if we're lucky, who knows? Maybe we're the lucky ones. I don't know. Dunk, what's going on this morning?
Man, a little chilly. I'm tired of this extended cold front, JD. I mean, usually we get, 2 or 3 days of this and it moves on.
Yeah, and it happens in January.
Yeah, this has been too long. I'm ready for a little warmer weather.
We have some comments. Jerry's saying hello this morning. Jerry, thanks for joining us, as always. Yeah. A regular. Trav is 504. Hoot at everybody. Still hoot at it. You got to love them. Don't.
Keeping the faith.
Hey,
believe.
Gotta have somebody believing. Let's see. What does Uncle Big Nick want? He wants to know if he could talk about your hair.
My hair? Yeah. I got no hair.
I mean, you still got a little bit. It's working
no
all
hair
right.
left, Big Nick.
I mean, for a man of your age, I mean,
it is receding and gone and graying and yeah, I just threw on my sweatshirt, so it was probably a little messed up. Didn't have time for makeup.
John Schaefer says it's 15 degrees in Omaha, Nebraska. John, God love you. You can keep that. I mean, it was about 33 degrees when I woke up this morning and up here in Mandeville. That is way too cold for me. I walked outside. My 6-year-old daughter is like, the roofs are white. They're white. I'm like, yeah, it's a little crazy.
Hey, I looked at the weather in San Francisco because I'm leaving for San Francisco Tuesday. It's like 15 degrees warmer there than it is here.
It's crazy. They had to move the Buffalo game to Detroit because they've already had just shy of 2 feet of snow in Orchard Park, and they're expecting another 2 to 3 feet. Can you even fathom that? I mean, you're from Louisville. You know a little bit about snow, but I mean, can you fathom 4 feet of snow?
No, I think the most we ever had was about 12, 13 inches. I remember back then when you grew up in an area where it snowed and you were younger, all you cared about was trying to get out of school. So you wanted it to snow. I mean, I used to love it because not only you get out of school, but then you could go, sledding, which is what we would do. We'd go over to Seneca Park near my house. It was a big golf course with all kinds of hills, take our toboggans and our sleds and just sled all day long. You were young, you had all that energy, but that's what my memory is. So I have good memories of the snow.
I don't think we know what toboggans are here. Is that something you put on your head?
No, toboggan's like a
I'm just kidding.
Wooden
kidding. I know.
You probably couldn't even buy a sled here, right?
I doubt it very seriously. I mean, you could probably turn a P-Rog into a sled if you really wanted to. But John also says he drove to the Saints game in Pittsburgh. It was cold there too. Oh, I can't imagine that wasn't very fun.
That's a cool stadium, though.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Badass stadium.
One of these days, Uncle Big Nick wants to know how soft the NFL is getting. Moving games. Oh, look, there's a difference. It's not all right. Let's get real. I mean, my wife actually joked about that last night when I was telling her about it and moving to Detroit. She says, "Don't they play in that kind of stuff? What's wrong with them?" I'm like, "There's a difference between playing in even a foot of snow." 3 to 4 feet, you're talking about, there's 80,000 people are going to drive to the game. You don't want them to be driving to the game in a blizzard.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's more about safety and
that's
than
not
the players. The players would probably dig it a little bit,
I mean, it would be fun to watch, but I certainly wouldn't want to drive in it. That's for darn sure.
Well, they're building a new stadium in Buffalo. I think they've signed off on that. It's going to be a few years, but I'm curious to see what they do. Buffalo's always known for the cold weather. Do they do like kind of a half indoor, retractable roof?
Yeah.
Because, you got to play outdoors in Buffalo, don't you?
Yeah, well, I would think so. I mean, do you think they're going to do a retractable roof over there?
I don't know. I haven't seen the renderings, but I'm curious because, Minnesota forever was outside, and they're no longer outside. And they get Super Bowls because of that. You're not going to get a Super Bowl if you build an outdoor stadium in the winter. There's no doubt.
Let's move on. Let's not talk about. I talk enough about the weather on my podcast. I mean, I should have been a meteorologist. I mean, it's what I besides the Saints and LSU and the Pelicans and sometimes Tulane. I think I talk more about the weather than anything else. But hey, should have been a meteorologist. You don't have to even be right. I mean, sports betting, you got to be right about, I don't know, 56 to 60% of the time, which we're doing right now. We're having a great year with NFL bets. We got the Titans right again last night. We are rolling. But you can't be right. Meteorology, you only have to be right like 30% of the time. And hurricanes. If you're right 30% of the time for everything except for hurricanes, you got to be right like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's harder to do weather here than most places in the country because of the weather coming out off the Gulf. There's all kinds of just pop-up storms.
Yeah.
It's difficult here, I think.
Something you didn't know about when you didn't live here, Dunk. You didn't have to worry about hurricanes in Louisville. I mean,
no, we just had a few tornadoes here and there, but nothing like the weather here.
Well, you've been through a few of them now here, through hell and high water. All right, Jerry, let's get down to the brass tacks. We got talent, not the coaching, Jerry says, and that leads into right where I want to go. I mean, I have defended Dennis Allen through most of this season, and I just look. It's not just the Dalton Winston thing. I'm going to ask your take on that in a minute, but I got issues with Dennis Allen now. And look, it's like I said earlier. I don't wish for any. You and I have both been through tumultuous times in our business over the past 10 years. I don't wish anyone to be fired. I mean, I've been through it. I've been let go and brought back 3 different times in my career now since 2012. So I don't wish that on anyone. But you have to wonder what's going on. And I think there's a lack of, I don't know, I guess you miss Sean Payton so much. You realize how much he meant to this team. We were talking off the air about Tennessee and the Titans and how well they play with mediocre talent. Other than Derrick Henry, that is a mediocre football team if there ever was one. They have now covered in 8 straight games, and since they got shellacked in Buffalo, they have been outstanding. And they have a mediocre quarterback. They have a mediocre defense, maybe a little better than mediocre. They have an okay offensive line, and Derrick Henry gets the job done, and Mike Vrabel gets the job done. The Saints don't have that.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe I'm kicking myself because I kind of fell into the trap of buying and drinking the Kool-Aid during training camp. I totally admit I did it. Should have been more skeptical, and I wasn't. Usually I'm the glass half empty guy when it comes to the crew out there. And I didn't. I kind of bought in, and I feel like expectations were just too high for this team. And I feel like that internally, JD, they overestimated how good they were. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it's all come home to roost this season. This is going to take a long recovery. I don't think it's going to happen overnight because they have resource issues to fix it. Right? You don't have a lot of high draft picks. You don't have a lot of cap room. So I don't see a lot to be optimistic about going forward. The only thing you can hang your hat on is the NFL. Things happen, right?
Yes.
No other league where all of a sudden the Jets and Giants are good this year, and no one thought that. No one thought Seattle would be winning their division. So
I didn't.
Yeah, it's a crazy league. So it's hard to say that it won't happen for the Saints, but I think historically, if you look at the history of this league, when you lose a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback, there's a huge drop-off, and I think we all kind of took that for granted.
Lindsay, I thank you for joining us every week, but it's not about the defense. It really isn't. It's not about the defense. And honestly, it's not even about the offense. It's about, I think, Dunk, you go through, and last week was a microcosm of the entire season. The Saints were not prepared to go to Pittsburgh last week. They played a coach in Mike Tomlin. I am a huge Mike Tomlin fan. I think Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the NFL. And it goes to show the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have the talent the Saints have. I get injuries. We another thing we talked about off air. Everybody has injuries in November. All 32 teams have injuries. You cannot make excuses about injuries.
The only one that doesn't, real quick, the only one that doesn't, my mind was blown Monday night. Eagles. Did you hear that stat on them? 17 of their 22 starters haven't missed a game all year. That's amazing. They have issues now.
But
I know, but it's probably why they've been so good, right?
Yeah.
17 out of 22 is pretty amazing. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, this is your show too. Sean Payton left unexpectedly. Dennis Allen was his fall guy. I mean, I don't want to say that's not the right way to put it. I'm with Dunk. Look, we could say whatever we want now. Hindsight is 2020. I thought the Dennis Allen hire was a good hire. I mean, I think when you're coming from Mickey Loomis's perspective, you want to go with what had worked for the past 16 years, and what had worked was the Sean Payton way. And the best way to go with that is status quo. And that's kind of what they were doing. Dennis Allen was status quo. Pete Carmichael was status quo. And now it's coming in just Dennis Allen to me. And he's still got time to prove things, prove us wrong. So, I mean, as wrong as we were in the beginning of the season that he was the right guy, and I'm not saying we because I'm not speaking for Jeff, but we could be just as wrong now that he's not the right guy. He could still turn things around. I think he's still young. He's still learning is part of the problem. He's so used to doing things a certain way. He's only got to look at the defense. And now and I hear this from high school coaches. It's no different at any level. When you're used to doing things from one way, and now you have all these added responsibilities and all these added things. So I can understand that it's a different world. He still has a chance to save his job. And Duncan and I have talked throughout the season that Mickey Loomis is a loyal guy. So it would probably take, and I know Saints fans don't want to hear this because they want him fired tomorrow. I think it would take Dunk a 5-12 or worse season for even there to be a chance that he's fired. But when you're a general manager and you look ahead and you talk about the cupboard being bare, it's not going to get any better because they don't have any cap space. They don't have a first-round draft pick. It's a mess. So, I mean, if you're Dennis Allen and you look at where you are, I'm not even sure that you want to stick around for this because I don't want to be Derry Downer, but this is not going to get better anytime soon.
Yeah, but I don't see any kind of change happening. I mean, unless this thing just completely goes off the rails.
Which it could.
Yeah, and that could happen, but I'll be shocked Mickey Loomis always errs on the side of being conservative. He's very loyal. He values stability. They just don't operate like that out there from the top down. Gail Benson as well. They value and really respect Dennis Allen. I think they look at it as he's a good coach, and we've got to fix what's around Dennis Allen. And maybe I'll be surprised, put it this way, if they're not significant changes to the coaching staff.
Yes.
And that will require them to buy out some guys because a lot of guys got multi-year contracts last year when Dennis came on. But there's obviously going to be some changes there. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
I think more than Dennis Allen, and I've been hypercritical of Pete Carmichael. It started off really bad. I thought he got a lot better throughout the course of the end of September and into October. I thought the Minnesota game, for the most part, he had a good game plan. I thought he had a good game plan for a couple of games. But the last few weeks, I'm just convinced he's in over his head. I mean, it's obvious that Sean Payton was calling all the plays. And you can follow a guy and be a part of something, but I mean, I hate to say it. He might be a nice guy. I've never met Pete Carmichael. So
he's a great guy. He's a terrific guy. He's
a
smart
like
guy.
He is.
Very
seems
smart.
like he is.
Yeah, but I mean,
but smart doesn't translate to being able to take on this kind of responsibility.
But he's called plays before and been very successful. So it's not like he hasn't done it before. I mean, he called the whole 2012 season, and they ran up huge numbers that year. I think he also called in 2018 or 17. He called most of the plays. But I think he clearly misses having Sean Payton there. There's no doubt. I think the whole organization misses Sean Payton.
Well, there's no doubt about that.
I mean, to me, that's the biggest thing that I'm just kicking myself about is I knew this could potentially happen. I've talked about it for years when Sean was coaching. I said, when he leaves, it's going to be tough. And then I somehow fell in the trap of thinking that they had kind of figured it out and didn't anticipate it. So I'm kicking myself. But Sean Payton has a presence. And I think one thing I've noticed, and see if you agree with me, Jim, is he had a confidence about him, a swagger as a coach that I think
no doubt.
That transferred to the players. I mean, the Saints played with a swagger. They don't have it anymore, man. You go out there and watch them play. They don't look confident. They don't look like they've got much energy. Their body language is not good. And,
I said it all week.
Not good.
they don't look like they want to be there, which is a reflection on the head coach as much as anything.
Some guys do. It's funny. Some of the young cats are into it, but I'm a big body language guy, and remember they used to do this thing, this little hand thing between DeMario and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They'd make a big play, and there's none of that going on now. And I know this is silly, and we're like maybe picking nits here, but like I watch a guy make a big play and against the Steelers. A guy makes a great defensive play, and just maybe one guy runs up and taps him on the helmet. There's no camaraderie. It's just like they're all just independent contractors doing their jobs. And they've got a bunch of good guys. It's not like they have bad people in the locker room, but there's just no cohesiveness. I don't know how you find that, but it's just not there right now.
We have a couple good questions and comments that I want to get to in just a minute. I promise. If you've left some really good comments, really good questions that I'm going to get to in just a minute. But I have a point to make, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying a minute ago. I think last week was a microcosm, and it's really on peak. I know you're not going to be as negative as I am, but I have a real problem with Pete Carmichael. You go into a game last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't care that you get T.J. Watt back. I understand that, but you're playing. T.J. Watt doesn't change the fact that the Steelers had the 28th ranked rushing defense in the NFL. And you go into that game and you run 15 times. I've said this all week long because it bothers me. You run 15 times. You should have been running 35 times in that game. You should not put that ball on. It shouldn't even be up to Andy Dalton last week. It should have been Kamara and Taysom Hill. And on second down, the Saints rushed the ball twice. And once was a fumble by Andy Dalton that he picked up and ran a yard forward, which counts as a run. So to tell me that you're not even trying to run the ball on second down, I don't care if you get no yards on first down. When you keep doing the same things over and over again, it's like throwing a fastball in baseball 28 times in a row and you don't have a great fastball. I mean, they're going to know that you're going to throw a fastball after you do it like the 12th time in a row. They're going to be sitting dead red. So you keep throwing the football. You don't even try to run the football. I have a problem with that. You go into a game plan against the 28th ranked run defense in the NFL, and you outsmarted only yourselves.
Well, as long as I've followed the Saints and this offensive coaching staff and this system, the one thing I know they do is they pretty much take what the defense gives them. They look at see how they're being defended early in the game, and then they try to attack where they think the defense is weak. That's how they've always done it here. And I've always felt like to some degree, like they've been incredibly successful, so it's hard to criticize them. But there is a part of me that's always felt like, hey, sometimes you just got to go and do what you do. And it's clear right now when teams play the Saints, they know they want to run the ball. Their two best playmakers are Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. And so teams know it. And they're loading up the box, and then it's exacerbated by the offensive line issues. They're playing backups along the interior offensive line. Now they're going to have a backup at left tackle, and they can't run the ball. And this is just a recipe for disaster.
They don't even try to run the ball, though.
Well, and when they did try, and they
not
couldn't.
Enough.
So, and the other thing is, I would say, and this is a little bit of a defense for the 15 attempts, is they didn't have hardly any plays. I mean, they ran like 50-something plays. I mean, they didn't maintain the ball to get enough plays to run the ball. They were like a lot of 3 and outs, and they're in a gunfight with a knife right now. They don't have any
red water pistol.
Yeah, Andy Dalton threw a couple of balls. If you remember, when I did the film study, a couple of 50-50 balls, one to Olave, one to Kevin White, that ended up being an interception. Those balls, if they're the exact same pass to Mike Thomas, he catches them. I mean, there's no doubt. They're competitive 50-50 balls. He would catch those. These guys can't make those kind of plays. They don't have that playmaker on the perimeter as a receiver. Chris Olave is a great young rookie. He's not a guy going to go up and outfight a DB for a pass. He's just not big enough, and that's not his game. So they're missing that kind of element, and teams know it. And the Steelers just said, you try and beat our guys one-on-one outside. We don't think you can do it.
You're being way too nice, but that's why I was looking forward to talking to you today, because I've been hyper on the other side. I'm not defending this team, and there's no defense for what I've seen the past couple of weeks. It's one thing if you go out and bust your ass and lose. It's another thing to see what we've seen the past couple of weeks. There's nobody busting anybody's ass. The Pittsburgh on the other side last week, again, coming out, they have no chance to make the playoffs. They were 2-6 coming into the game. They gave it everything that they had. They should have won that game by 3 touchdowns. I mean, it goes to show.
Yeah, the Saints were lucky to be in that game. I mean, they missed 2 field goals.
Extremely lucky.
Yeah, they were fortunate. I don't know if that field goal kicker is going to be back there. I don't know if he still is, but they should have had that game well in hand, and the Saints were still in it. But I told you, I thought the Steelers would win that game. I thought it was a tough spot for the Saints.
Right,
yeah. They had a bye week the week before. They're getting healthier. I like them against the Bengals this week. I think they're a team that could be kind of on the come, if you will. And I like the way they played against the Saints. I thought they got after the Saints on both lines of scrimmage. And I think Kenny Pickett's going to be a good player. I mean, he missed some throws against the Saints.
He should be wearing a different black and gold.
Yeah, but you can see the talent he's got. And he can run. He hurt the Saints running the ball. He's going to be a good player.
I know the Saints needed a left tackle in the worst way, but Kenny Pickett should be a member of the New Orleans Saints. That made no sense to me at all. I mean, that's a quarterback this team could certainly use, could be a franchise quarterback, will be a franchise quarterback.
You'd feel a lot better right now if you had Kenny Pickett.
There's no doubt. Even if you were 3-7, you would feel a lot better.
You'd feel like and Rod Walker made a good point. He was going to write that column until the wheels fell off, but his column was going to be about if you were, you had 2 teams here, very similar, right? Lost Hall of Fame quarterbacks and chose different paths to recover from that loss. The Steelers went with the young rookie. Saints tried to kind of go with the veteran route and keep things together. And right now, I'd rather be a Steelers fan than a Saints fan with the future that both teams hold.
And one franchise has been winning since 1970, and the other franchise has had is won half that time. I mean, you a 16-year window with Sean Payton. And maybe you can count. I was going to say maybe you can count a 6 or 7 year window with Jim Mora and a very small snippet of Jim Haslett's career. But other than that, this has been a losing franchise, and I hate to say it, but it's going to be a losing franchise.
Wow, Derry Downer in effect.
It's the truth. I mean, let's be real. Look, when it's good, it's good. This is not good. It's not getting better anytime soon. I hate to tell you. Just look at what you can't say this team is getting better anytime soon. They don't have the leadership. I'm talking about from the lower end. I believe in Mickey. But I don't think Mickey's going to be around that much longer. And it goes to this question from my friend Ronnie Dalio. Sean clearly still wants to coach. I agree wholeheartedly. Did he leave the Saints because he saw this coming? It's the only answer. I think Sean Payton knew that even he couldn't drag this bunched out what he had coming out of the abyss, and he didn't have it in him to do a whole new he didn't have what Belichick had in him to go through post-Brady era. And I think Sean, now in hindsight, why did he leave so early? I mean, we figured he would leave in a few years. We didn't figure he would leave before this year. And so maybe he saw the
look, I think he was burnt out too. I think that was a big part of it.
You would know better than anybody. So that's why we asked.
I think he was definitely burnt out. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But he's not burnt out anymore. I mean, this past week he
didn't
take where he was at this past week, playing golf at Augusta National all week. So
wow,
that's only going to get you so far, though. At some point, he wants to get back on the sidelines, and he's going to be coaching somewhere next year. The Saints would be smart to at least give him a call.
Trav says Oswego got traded to the Eagles for some pocket lint. You know what? That's funny and all, but I don't agree with that at all. That's the one thing. I don't miss Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I don't think this team would be any better with him here. He didn't want to play here. He wasn't going to play here. They weren't going to give him the contract because frankly, they can't afford it. We talked about the situation of salary cap. We can joke about where the Saints might be and they didn't get anything for him. You weren't going to get anything for him. That's the best you could do. So he wouldn't have made one lick of difference on this team. I promise you. Because you know why? Because he wouldn't be playing like he's playing in Philly. He probably wouldn't even be on the field. He would have taken the Mike Thomas train in Nowhereville. He wouldn't even be playing. So, I mean, people wouldn't be saying that had he stuck around. We have some other comments. Let's see. And Jerry's on the same train talking about Forget about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He would not be playing here.
This is what happens, though,
no
Jim.
difference.
This is what happens when a team starts losing. Everybody starts looking for scapegoats and easy identifiable like problems or solutions, and it's really way more complicated than that.
Way more complicated than that. There are little facets of everything. Ryan hasn't commented yet. He says, Pete Carmichael's got to go. How is it not a bigger story that Pete's dad is best friends with Andy Dalton's dad? I didn't know that at all. Is that really true? If not, I don't know that it matters, but I don't know if that's true. I don't think that has anything to do with anything.
I don't know what that has to do with anything.
That isn't. I mean, that I appreciate you commenting, but I don't think that has anything to do with. Look, Lord knows I've been in the Jameis Winston camp, but I don't think that nepotism is playing a role in anything. I think it's just, and Dunk, maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think when it comes to Dalton Winston, and we haven't talked about it, and I definitely wanted to with you because I know that you would. Maybe I'll present the Derry Downer point of view, and you can, come back up, bring people back up a little bit. But I think when it comes down to Dalton Winston is this. If you look through, and I not joked, but I said it's one of three things. It's either Dennis Allen is trying to get fired, which we know is not the case. Obviously, I'm being facetious when I say that. Andy Dalton has got something on Dennis Allen, which we know is not the case. We all know I'm being facetious when I say that. Or I'm not being facetious when I say this. Jameis Winston did something to piss somebody off. and there's something, and now you see him talking to Mike Triplett and having to sit down and saying, I'm not hurt, and they promised me, and coming clean. Something that would have never, ever, ever happened with Sean Payton as coach. Somebody having a candid conversation about the internal goings on, even with himself. That would have never happened with Sean Payton, but it goes to show a point. Sean Payton, Jameis Winston did something to somebody to piss somebody off somewhere. That can be the only reason why they wouldn't make a change right now. The only reason.
No, I totally disagree with that. I don't think he pissed anybody off. I just think, this is what I think transpired. He got hurt, started playing terribly. They made a decision to go to Dalton. And then when he got healthy, Dalton was playing well at that time, and they just didn't want to. I know how Mickey Loomis thinks. Don't be confused here. Mickey Loomis is heavily involved in making this decision. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Mickey and Dennis met on this, probably Jeff Ireland too, the whole front office, and made a decision. This is a big decision, and they probably said, "Look, let's keep this thing going the way it is." And they didn't feel like this wasn't Drew Brees coming back. This is Jameis Winston, who, let's face it, is not probably that much better if he is than Andy Dalton. Maybe he is a little better, but it wasn't that big a difference, in other words, in talent. And so they stuck with Dalton. And now what I think happened is I think Dennis actually thought, and I haven't talked to anybody about this, so I'm kind of just speculating, but reading between the lines, Dennis said, we made a decision to go with Andy. We, not I, we. I think they just, knowing how Mickey Loomis thinks, says, we're going to look really crazy here if we go flip-flopping back and forth between quarterbacks. Let's keep this thing stable. They value stability, and let's just keep the ship righted. He thinks maybe it would look bad if you're flip-flopping back between these guys. So I don't agree with it, but I think that
looks bad. What does 3-7 look like? Are you serious?
I think they feel like the quarterback there is not that. There's not that much difference. That's whoever plays quarterback on this 3-7 team, just like you said, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I don't think they feel like it's going to make much difference. Is the way I view their decision.
That makes it even worse. If you don't think it makes much difference, then you are foolish at 3-7 to sit and go status quo and watch the same thing. And I know this isn't you. I know this is you speculating on what they're saying internally, and I believe you. I think there's a good chance that that's true. But that's even worse. You're 3-7. To not make changes at 3-7, that'd be like me being a salesman and I haven't sold a car in 2 months. And because I'm not getting off my fat ass to go out there and work. It doesn't make any sense. So we just keep doing the same things over and over again. It doesn't make – look, here's our graphic to show the point. We look at where they are in offense. They were the 5th ranked offense not that long ago. It keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. And the worst part is the 22nd ranked rushing offense. They're not 22nd ranked because just because it's in part because their offensive line has been hurt. I get that. But you're not the 22nd rushing offense solely because you've had injuries on your offensive line. Again, everybody's got injuries everywhere this time of season. You're 22nd in rushing offense because you're not trying to run the ball. And that goes on the coaching. But going back to the change thing, you can't expect things to get better if you just like saying at 3-7, something's got to happen. You got to start at the top.
Yeah, look, I don't know what led to that decision, but Monday it certainly sounded like Dennis was looking at making a change.
It sure did.
He didn't talk with he didn't use that kind of word phrasing before when he was asked about the quarterback.
Agreed.
And Andy Dalton is not playing that well right now. My problem with Andy Dalton is that, when you watch him, it's pretty clear he's never going to try to make a play. He's always going to err. I mean, just like the first series in the Steelers game, they left a guy unblocked, and it happens, protection breakdown, guy unblocked. He just immediately throws the ball away. He doesn't even try to make a play. Whereas Lamar Jackson, I realize it's Lamar Jackson, but
right.
That can happen with Lamar Jackson, and he still can make something happen. Andy Dalton has no ability to make a play off schedule. Everything has to be perfect, and it's not a perfect world in the NFL. He doesn't even try, and it's probably because the coaching staff has said, just do not make mistakes. And so he's going to try to avoid those mistakes. And I'm at the point where when I watch the Saints play, they're 3-7 now. At least Jameis Winston, yes, he might make a mistake, but he also might make a big play. And that's where I differ is I think if you put Jameis in there, he might be able to avoid that rush. He might try to make a play, and sometimes he might get burned, but he also might make a play. Right now, there's no hope when things break down because Andy can't scramble. He's not that guy at this stage of his career, and he doesn't have the arm strength to get the ball down the field. The Saints have one play of longer than 19 yards in 2 games, and that was that fluky play where Juwan Johnson scored because the Ravens quit on the play and thought.
And he stepped out of bounds, but it was at a point where it didn't matter, so they didn't even review it.
Is that true? I didn't know.
Yeah, he clearly stepped out of bounds on that play.
That's the only play they've had over 19 yards in 2 games.
Well, and look, it goes to what I've been saying for 6-7 weeks, probably longer. But again, I don't know how to keep saying the same thing. You know what you have with Andy Dalton. You know what's going to happen with Andy Dalton. I'm not saying Jameis Winston's going to be some kind of savior, but the fact that you might have something, you might be able to make big plays, beats knowing you can't make big plays. So that's my biggest thing. I'm not saying Jameis Winston's going to come in and save the season. This season's gone. But the fact that he is under contract for next season, it makes no sense to at least see because there's not a large enough sample size. He did. I mean, if you want to think there is, you can go back and say he went 5-2 as a starter last year. He played 3 games this year, and he played it probably injured. So I don't understand why they wouldn't even at least try and see what you have. You might have something.
Let me just say this. I mean, and I don't know this. I haven't talked to Tripp, but wouldn't surprise me if that whole conversation was arranged.
Right.
I don't know that. Tripp might have just wandered up to Jameis in the locker room, and good on him for doing that. But I also know Jameis has a camp, a group of people around him that are pretty. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but he's got a group of people that are out for his best interests and want to frame things, and that probably didn't happen.
I get that. I completely get that. I think 100% you're true. That is true. But here we go. Gypsy, obviously on the Andy Dalton camp. How do we know Jameis is not 100% healthy? How do you know? Have you been working on Jameis Winston? Because if you are, I'd love to hear from you. Gypsy, if you're a doctor and you've been at Jameis Winston's facility or whatever it is, and you've worked on him and you know he's not 100% healthy, please give us some info.
I think he's telling everybody he is healthy.
Exactly. That's my point. So, I mean,
he would know better than anybody.
I think he would know. I don't think Jameis has nothing to gain really to come out and say he's fully healthy if he wasn't, because if they were to make a change and he's hurt, then he's screwing himself.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's no reason he would do that.
If you're Jameis Winston, the best thing you could do right now is act like you're hurt, because that would give you cover for your next contract with another team.
100%.
You could say, look, I was not healthy. I'm healthy now. But if you're saying you're healthy and you can't get on the field, that's going to cause some red flags to maybe a future team that might want to sign him. Why are they not playing him if he's healthy? So to me, he definitely is healthy.
There's zero doubt in my mind that he's healthy. And again, at this point in the season, there isn't a single player in the league, not one single player that has played at least 50% of the snaps or whatever, that is not banged up in some kind of way, that doesn't have something that's affecting the way they play football. It's just different people deal with it, and different coaches deal with injuries situations than others. Uncle Big Nick asked the question, don't we think Jameis has more to play for, a reason to play good? I mean, look, I think Dalton's doing the best he can. I mean, look, Andy Dalton is going out there and busting his ass. I don't have any problem with that. But I guess the point is Dalton is done after this year, which is, I don't even want to say likely, but there's a good chance that Andy Dalton retires when the season's over.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a big family.
Yeah, exactly.
This is fourth team in 4 years. There's a reason, he's a classic journeyman. Now, he may want to keep playing at a place where he doesn't have to go out there and get beat up like he's doing.
Right.
He might want to be the Chase Daniel route, get behind a Josh Allen or somebody where he doesn't even have to play and make $2 or $3 million a year just being a backup. That's not a bad gig.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's why he went to Dallas. I mean, but that didn't work out too well for him. So, and look, I don't think Andy Dalton had any real expectations of starting when he came here. It just kind of were. I mean, Jameis was the clear starter, and that's another problem. Jameis was the clear starter going into the season. So you saw 3 games with him obviously injured then. You saw 3 games with an injured Jameis Winston, and that tells you don't even want to play him anymore. There's got to be something going on. But I'm not trying to create some kind of controversy. There's got to be something going on behind the scenes that we don't know.
Well, I would say this. I do think it's fair to openly question why they went after Jameis Winston in the offseason and gave him the contract they gave him. It's a 2-year, $28 million deal. It's by starting quarterback standards, that's middle class, maybe even lower middle class. It's pretty affordable, but it's still $14 million you're paying him to sit on the bench right now and to not play. You're paying Andy Dalton $3 million.
Correct.
So clearly you thought Jameis Winston was the guy just 6 months ago or 5 months ago. He was your guy.
Right.
So you're right. Something's given them pause, and that's something only the team knows. Now, what that is it? I don't think it's something he did to piss him off. I think it's something that he did on the field, maybe in preparation, that's given them a lack of confidence in him.
Let me ask you this. Is this a possibility? And I never really thought about this before, but is it possible that maybe they know that they want to cut him when the season's over? And if he comes in and plays well, then it's a lot harder to do that. I mean, is that a possibility? No,
I don't think they would care about that. I think they would definitely, if they want to move on from him, they'll move on from him. But they want to win games right now. I think the risk you run right now is losing the locker room. And what I mean by that, I don't mean everybody's going to have a coup. What I mean is you lose the buy-in for Dennis Allen. And right now, trust me, the most important thing in that building from Mickey Loomis and management and the front office is trying to make it work with this head coach. I mean, they just hired him. They want him to have success. They want him to breed confidence.
Of course they do.
From below. And right now, I think
so do we.
There's a crisis of confidence right now in Dennis Allen and the staff, and they're going to try any way they can to bolster that. So they want to win games to do that.
I don't want to come off the wrong way. I want Dennis Allen to succeed. I think Dennis Allen's a great guy. I mean, every time I've been around him, I actually met him before the season started. And if he were listening to this, he wouldn't remember. But I met him at a car wash. Super nice guy. Talked to him for a couple minutes. He was nothing but nice. Didn't have to talk to me. I didn't say that I was a sports writer at the time. I hadn't really met him. I hadn't dealings with him. I've been in the locker room, been part of his presence. I think he's a truly nice guy. I hope he succeeds here. I think he's going to get a chance to succeed unless this season just falls off the rails completely. 3-7 is not completely falling off the rails. 3-14 would be falling off the rails. 4-13 would be falling off the rails. So unless that happens, he's probably going to be back with major changes. But I wish him well. I just don't. I don't think from what I've seen, that he's going to be able to turn things around, because I think he's in over his head. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, he's definitely got the support in the building. There's
no question about that.
I think he's had a lot of things go against him here. I mean,
that's true.
Weird injury to Marshawn Lattimore, the bad luck with Michael Thomas. I mean, that's two of your probably 5 best players on the team.
I don't know that I would call Michael Thomas bad luck. That's on Michael Thomas. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just saying for Dennis Allen, it's misfortune.
Yeah, you know how we all kind of misread the Saints before the season, us in the media. I think a lot of Saints people misread Michael Thomas. And so I think that's where that is, and they're just kind of stuck now. That's something we definitely will be talking about in the offseason. I'm trying to get going because there are some other things I want to talk about. It's already 10:02 in the morning, and I wanted to be done by 10:10. That's not going to happen. Okay. But real quick, because I never even got to the Rams. Trav says, how is it that Jameis isn't healthy enough to start, but is healthy enough to be emergency quarterback? That's another thing. I mean, if he wasn't healthy enough to play, he wouldn't be the backup quarterback, which is what he is right now. Let's talk about the matchup itself. We've talked enough about the internal parts of the Saints. And going into this week, the good news is for the Saints, they're playing a team that is in at least the same situation they're in. I mean, the only difference is they won the Super Bowl last year. But they're playing a Rams team that has a lot of problems. They're probably going to get, well, not probably, they're almost certainly going to get Matthew Stafford back this week, which has changed this line from Saints to -4 to Saints -3. But, Dunk, you're going to have to help me understand why the Saints are a 3-point favorite, even against a team that's as dysfunctional as they are.
Well, I mean, if there is any team in the league that's more dysfunctional than the Saints, it's the Rams right now. So I think that's why I think the Rams are struggling to get to 20 points in the game. Their offensive line's completely decimated.
Yeah, that's true.
They can't run the ball. I think you showed that graphic a while ago where they last in the league in rushing offense.
32nd. And I don't think it's the 32nd in total offense, period, which is something you wouldn't expect.
No Cooper Kupp this week. They're going to struggle to move the ball. But I think the Saints are going to struggle, especially with the offensive line issues they have. Aaron Donald's still over there. I mean, I'm usually a guy that likes to be kind of contrarian, but I don't see how this game's going to go into the 20s. I don't see how either team's going to move the ball, given their deficiencies on offense. Now, this is where I think the criticisms of Pete Carmichael are valid. I'd like to see a little more creativity out of him. Where's that jet sweep they used to get Rashid Shaheed earlier this year, right? I mean, just little things like that. Maybe a screen game. There's not a lot of creativity right now on the play calling, and he's going to have to be creative because they don't have any other option. This lining up and running Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara is not going to work. They're going to have to come up with something to try and get a little gimmicky to produce some points. But I do think whoever gets to 20 is going to win this game.
Well, hence why the over-under is a minuscule 39. So, it's from what we've seen, you would imagine that it would even go under 39. I have trouble betting a total that low unless it's going to be bad weather, or unless it's teams that just can't move the football. But the Saints, will they be able to find Dunk? Do you think they'll be able? You have to think they've done some introspection, right? They've sit around and say, what have we done wrong? And if there's any week that you can fix it, at least a little bit, and I know the Rams defense has played okay, they still gave up 27 points to the Cardinals and a backup quarterback in Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
So there are points to be scored against this team. Do you think the Saints said, look, we got away from X, Y, and Z. We got to get back to it this week?
Yes, I think it's exactly what they're going to try and do. Jarvis Landry, I thought was okay in his game back. He certainly helps them a little bit. They got to get the ball to Olave. Juwan Johnson has been one of the silver linings of this season. He's really emerged, I think, as a top target. Andy Dalton clearly has confidence in him. So I can see why the Saints are favored in this game. But right now, the Saints just need to get a win any way they can to get a little confidence. And, one win can change things.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're in a bad division. But I wrote my column this week. Sometimes I feel like the worst thing that's happened to the Saints is the division being bad, because everyone keeps, as I pointed out, like everyone's looking up at Tampa and going, wow, we're almost there. We're only a game or two back. And what they should be doing is looking down and saying, there's only 2 teams in the league worse than us, than the entire league. That's the reality, not that you're 2 games behind the division leader. I mean, it's such a bad division. You're losing perspective on just how bad things are right now because the division is kind of keeping hopes alive.
Gypsy, we've shown a couple of your comments today. I appreciate your optimism, buddy. I really do. It takes up to 3 years for a new head coach to develop into a success. They don't have 3 years. They're not. This is a different NFL that we live in. You don't get 3 years. I mean, maybe with this team, if there were any team who's going to get 3 years with, it would be this one because, I mean, Mickey Loomis, again, I just don't think Mickey's going to be here for 3 more years. I just don't think he wants to be. I mean, just when we talked to him over the offseason, Dunk, I just don't know that he has 3 years left in him. We'll see.
I think he's going to want to stay as long as he can to make sure Dennis is successful. That's my opinion. But I also think he doesn't want to be doing this, 10 more years, no doubt. I would say 5 years is his window to.
And I think it was about this time last year when we said that, or you said that Sean Payton's window was about 5 years max, and that turned into about 3 months. So I'm not saying Mickey's gonna quit. Mickey's, first off, get it out of your head. I've had some. I'm not gonna be mean. I've had some out of the in another world comments that Mickey Loomis should go. Mickey Loomis is never, and let me repeat this: never going to get fired and never going to be asked to leave. The Saints would have to go 0-17 like 2 years in a row. Okay, that's how bad it would have to be. Gail Benson is not going to get rid of Mickey Loomis, nor should she, in my opinion.
What was the great Edwin Edwards line? The only way I can lose this election if I'm caught in bed with a live boy or a dead girl.
Or a dead girl.
Yeah, something like that.
A live boy or a dead girl.
Yes, that's the same way with Mickey Loomis getting fired. It ain't going to happen.
I don't know. A dead boy would probably do it too. But anyway,
that's the only way. That's what I'm saying. That's the only way he gets fired is otherwise.
It ain't happening, in other words. But but that being said, I'm just saying, he's what, 63, 64? Something
I don't know his age.
It's up there. So, I mean, you get to the point. Look, I can tell you when I'm 63 or 64, I'm certainly going to be thinking about it. I may still be here. I hope that they let me stay here this long. I keep saying dumb things. Who knows? They might kick me out of here. But I hope I'm still around. But I can tell you one thing. Even if I am at 63, 64, I'll be thinking about it. There's no question about that.
Well, when you're making the money Mickey Loomis is, it's a little harder to hang it up.
Yeah, but you can't spend it if you stick. I mean, I always wonder, like the Pete Carrolls of the world. I mean, Pete Carroll, by the way, has done a hell of a job this year. I've been down on him a lot throughout the past decade or so. But, man, he's done a hell of a job. But at 71 or 72, I know you make a lot of money, and I know you enjoy doing. But don't you want to see what else there is in life when you get to that age? I mean, you only have, who knows how much time you have left. I mean, when you're 72, I mean, you might be lucky and have 20 some odd years left. Who knows? But don't you want to go spend some time with your wife and see what else there is?
I think these guys are wired differently.
I guess
they're wired to compete in the highest arena in professional sports, and they also, a lot of them are kind of obsessive compulsive personalities in that they don't have a lot of outside interests, and that's what they do. I know I've talked to Peyton before. I mean, Sean doesn't do a whole lot other than he's playing a lot of golf right now, but I mean,
yeah, he realized real quick that he had to get back into coaching.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of interests otherwise. I mean, a lot of these guys are like that. It's all they've done their whole lives. So I think, and I agree with you. I think Pete Carroll's done a great job. On the other hand, the coach that comes in this week, I don't think has done a very good job. Sean McVay, I don't feel like he's all in right now.
He doesn't want to be there.
I think his team knows it. He's got one foot out the door probably to TV, and it shows in the way they play. Sean
McVay has there were rumors before the season started that he was going to retire. And then somehow he got talked back into coming back, and it shows. I mean, when a coach either A, isn't all in, which Sean McVay isn't, or probably can't do it, I'm not going to mention any names, it shows. And to me, there are probably only, right now, I could probably make a list of at least at least 12 to 13 to 14 guys who are head coaches right now and probably shouldn't be. But those jobs are A, hard to get, and B, once you get them, not everybody knows how to handle them. So we talked about the Buccaneers and the pipe dream that the Saints fans might have, and good. If you got a pipe dream, good. I mean, we might sit here on January 1st as the Saints about to play the Philadelphia Eagles, and you could say, Derry, you're an idiot. I mean, look at what the Saints have reeled off. Look at all these wins they've reeled off. They're tied with Tampa. I mean, it could happen. Don't count on it. But Tampa Bay does have a tough schedule coming up when they come off their bye. They got to play the Browns. They play the Saints. I don't know if you consider that a tough game or not, but that could be a crucial game. But then they finish with the 49ers, Bengals. Then they got the Cardinals after that. Let's see, which isn't necessarily that tough, but it is in Arizona before they finish with two easy ones against the Panthers and the Falcons. So, look, if you're going to get the Bucs, you got to get them in the next few weeks. If you have any hopes or prayers, and you talk about the upcoming schedule, you want to talk about super tough. How about the Saints? You know, after the Rams game, they got to go to San Francisco. They have to go to Tampa Bay on a Monday night, and then they finally get their bye week. By the way, there should be no bye weeks that late. That's obscene that it goes to week 14 before you get your bye week. But Dunk, I mean, so if the Saints can show something, look, we'd all like to believe if you can win this game and win one out of the two after that, obviously preferably Tampa Bay, then who knows?
Yeah, look, I agree. You got to win this week. Have to win. I mean, this is, you know, you're
even you're calling this a must win. You don't call anything a must win.
No, but I mean, you've got to if you want to salvage this season. I don't think they got a prayer of beating San Francisco, but last year when they went to Tampa, I said they had no prayer winning that game, and not only they win it, they shut out Tampa Bay. So what do I know? Things happen in this league.
They're not beating San Francisco.
San Francisco is the exact kind of team that's going to give the Saints all kinds of. They're like the Steelers on steroids. You know, they're
100%.
Yeah, they're physical, and I just can't see them winning out there on the West Coast. So you got to get a win this week to stay in it. And then you go to Tampa and you go all in, because if you win that game, all of a sudden the whole division opens up because you basically picked up two games.
Jerry, I love you, and you've been around since we've started this thing, and you are a regular follower of Bayou Bets, but I hate this. Reality check the NFL. The NFL, I mean, I have to say this at least once a month. The NFL doesn't hate the Saints any more than they hate it. They love the Saints. They want to come to New Orleans all the time. They do come to New Orleans all the time. New Orleans keeps getting Super Bowls. They don't hate the Saints. Roger Goodell doesn't give a rat's patoot about the Saints or any other team in the league. He's probably, I mean, I don't know where he grew up, but wherever he grew up, I'm sure he's a fan of. Maybe he grew up in New York. I don't know. Maybe he's a Giants fan in the closet. I don't know. But he doesn't hate the Saints. I promise you. I promise everyone.
Yeah,
doesn't hate the Saints.
That's
they don't want us to fail. It's the most ridiculous. Saints fans, I love you, but you say the most silly, crazy thing sometimes. It's the dumbest thing. There's no conspiracy against the Saints. Jando asked a question that I don't know the answer to. Why haven't the Saints worn all black with a new black helmet? Is that an NFL rule? No, you can wear a black helmet with black. And by the way, speaking of
uniform change this week.
Yeah, I love it. This is my favorite uniform. They are wearing my favorite uniform this week. They're wearing the throwback 60s uniforms with the black. Don't get me wrong. I love the all white when they wear it with the gold numbers and the old school in the stripe. I don't like the all white with today's uniform. That looks dumb. But this is my favorite uniform of all time. They're wearing the gold jerseys. The black jerseys with the old gold pants and the stripe down the side and the white nameplate and the gold numbers. This is it. They have the
one with the three stripes too.
They got the three stripes on the sleeves. It's going to be beautiful, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be beautiful.
Going to be cool. It does open them up though to some heavy sarcasm. If they lose, you're going to hear Saints Twitter saying, "Oh, we've gone back to the baghead days," and I can hear all that happening.
Well, you're assuming Twitter is going to still be around Monday.
That's true.
That's a whole nother joke.
Yeah, part of me wouldn't mind if it just went away.
Isn't it amazing? But isn't it amazing though that people latch on to these? And it's the same in sports and every other facet of life. People latch on to these ridiculous things that they hear or see in a fleeting moment. Oh, Twitter's going to be gone tomorrow. I mean, this NFL hates the Saints. The refs screwed them again. I mean, it's every facet of life, don't. I mean,
yeah, I remember. Well, I think I've talked about this with you before. Look, I've lived here now 22 years. One thing I think that is true is more people in Louisiana, at least from my experience, buy into conspiracy theories, and I think that's ingrained in the population here because there's been so much corruption, there's been so much backroom dealing in local government, all these things that cause people to be skeptical here. I mean, dynamiting the levee, after remember Katrina, remember like everybody thought they'd dynamite. That stuff goes on here more than anywhere I've lived, but that's because history shows that there's been some valid reasons to be skeptical. Well, so I do think I understand it. I do. I really do.
Well, Lee Harvey Oswald lived here for a long time. So,
right.
I mean, that whole JFK thing was rooted right in New Orleans. It happened in Dallas, but it was rooted in New Orleans.
Right.
So.
And if you watch that movie, you see why people are conspiracy theorists here and why these things get crazy. Was it that there's an old book, right? Dr. Mary's Monkey or whatever
it
is?
Yes.
All about the conspiracy.
It all started here. Jando, real quick, I appreciate the comment, the question. He's late, but would we do a reboot of this team with a healthy coach and Jameis? Look, this is something that we're probably going to talk more about in the offseason. I don't think you can talk about reboots right now. We talk about, people wanting Dennis Allen to go or stay. I mean, that's not something you can. He's not going to go anywhere to the end of the season. At even if he goes, it wouldn't be till the end of the season. So let's get through this season. From my perspective, I have been questioning things that he's done, but I'm not saying he should be fired in the middle of the season again. As someone who's been fired 3 times in 11 years, I don't want anyone to be fired, really. So that's a tough situation. Dunk says he's not going to get fired. I think if they keep on this path that they're on, I think they're not going to have a choice. But again, I want to be wrong.
Guys have had 3-win seasons and not been fired. I mean, I definitely think he could. I think he could go 3.
Jim Haslett didn't.
14. Well, he'd been there
Mike Ditka
5 or 6 years. This is a first-year guy. He's going to get a little more of a rope because they're going to look. Mickey Loomis is the first one that probably will tell him behind closed doors, look, we probably didn't set you up here to win with how we handled some of the things. He's going to give him a lot more rope than he would somebody that's been here 5 years the way Jim had been.
I think there's going to be, again, look, we're putting the cart ahead of the horse. This team may still win 6 or 7 games. I think they have a real chance to do that. I think they can win 6 or 7 games. And then there's no question that he's coming. They win 6 or 7 games. There's zero question Dennis Allen's coming back. So let's get that even. There's no chance that he's. But if they win 4 or 5 games, it's gonna be a lot tougher. There's gonna be a lot more pressure. There's a lot of season ticket holders that are gonna be on the brink. All right, look, we are gonna do predictions. We're gonna save our Rams Saints predictions. We do it every week. Duncan and I make our predictions at the end of the show. We're going to do that. Before we do that, I do want to move on and talk about a couple other things very quickly. It's 10:20. I really would like this show to be done by 10:30 because Dunk's got things to do. And we want to get it up on the podcast platform before it gets too late. But real quick, Uncle Big Nick tells you, I know you're going to San Francisco. He went to Santa Clara last year. LB Steakhouse is phenomenal. You have time to eat. And Jeff Duncan always has time to eat.
Yeah. I've already got a couple of things lined up. So, but that's good to know. I didn't know that. Is it in San Francisco or Santa Clara? I'll have to look that up.
I think it's in Santa Clara, he's saying. So LB Steakhouse, make sure you look that up. And Gypsy asked, who's responsible for scheduling the Saints road trips, but 4 in the beginning of the season? They play Gypsy. All right, this is obviously a conspiracy theorist trap question. The Saints play this year 8 home games, 8 road games, and a trip to London because it was their time to go. Okay? So what difference does it make? I mean, to me, I don't care if you play 8 games in a row on the road or 8 games in a row at home. You're going to play the same amount of home games. The schedule is set. You play X team at home, you play Y team on the road, you play X team at home, you play Y team. It doesn't matter. I mean, every team has interesting parts of the schedule. The Saints have been home now. This will be the 5th time in 7 weeks the Saints are at home. So, right. I mean, you could look at it the other way.
Struggling at home.
Exactly. So, I mean, you could look at it whatever way you want. I mean, this is the good part of the schedule, and they're 3-7. So
every team in the league, fans think that somehow the schedule.
Every team. I mean, remember how the NFL hated the Patriots when they got themselves in trouble with Deflategate and cheated.
Right.
And the cheating, looking over at the Jets practices or whatever the hell they were doing. And Patriots fans were saying the NFL hated the Patriots because they were cheating. I mean, it's like baseball hates the Astros. I'm sure Astros fans think that baseball hates the Astros. You cheated. I mean, of course you're going to get punished. They still
won the World Series.
Exactly.
They overcame the conspiracy and still won the World Series. So.
Who'd have to get over yourselves? We love you, but get over yourselves. The NFL doesn't hate.
Let's just say this: it's not everybody, not all Saints fans are like that. So
no, but a lot of them, and a lot of them are my friends. So I have to deal with it all the time. Yeah. All right, let's again, we're going to finish the show with our predictions in about 8 minutes. If you want to give your predictions, we'd love to have them here in the comments section. Now we'll read them before we read Dunk and I's predictions. But I didn't make a banner for LSU this week. They are playing UAB real quickly, Dunk. This is another trap game. We said it last week. You don't usually get 2 trap games back-to-back, but I think that's the case for LSU this week. They were 3-point favorites last week on in Arkansas. They won by exactly 3. So which proves that the lines makers knew what they were doing. Don't think LSU is going to blow this team out this week because UAB's got a good running game. And after the big win and clinching that SEC West title, this could be a trouble spot. Nick Saban lost to UAB at home.
Yeah, look, I think UAB's got a lot more to play for here than LSU, so that's always scary. Yeah, I think LSU wins, but I think the line was 14.5. If I were betting that game, now. I would take those points because I think UAB will, if nothing else, backdoor cover in a game like that. I think it's a dangerous spot.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that it will be a struggle, and it wouldn't be a surprise at all if LSU won by 7 points or less. I mean, it could be one of those games that come down to the wire. I mean, that's how scary it's going to be. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Yes. The defense will play well, but I think it's going to be a huge struggle. So don't expect – look, Aunt Mabel's going to be betting on UAB. I mean, on LSU. Don't bet on LSU. If you want to bet the game for some unknown reason, that's not a game I'm going to touch in any way, shape, or form. But if you are determined to bet on the LSU-UAB game, do not bet on LSU. I'm just telling you, either don't bet or bet on UAB. I promise you. So, all right. I also want to talk about Tulane, Dunk. You've been all over Tulane this year, and they have been so much fun. Just the fact that they're able to get to 9 wins last night, got a chance to win 10, finishing off with Cincinnati. Still alive to get into the American Athletic Conference championship game. Still alive to host that game, as a matter of fact. You got to like what Tulane did last night against SMU.
Yeah, they kind of took out their frustration on that UCF loss and the fact that they had lost 7 straight games to SMU. SMU kind of owned them in the series. And, man, they played very well. Defense really got after SMU. I think the last time I looked, they were forced 5 turnovers. And, yes, now they've got to go to Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati.
Tough place to play.
That's going to be difficult. But Cincinnati is not the Cincinnati of last year or year before. They're definitely beatable, but it will be difficult up there. But I'm not doubting the way this Tulane team plays. They've got something really good going right now. They got a lot of confidence. That game certainly gave them confidence. That's going to be a hell of a game, that game next weekend. And
regardless of what happens, Tulane's going to be in a pretty decent bowl, so it's quite a turnaround from where they've been. And it's great to see Willie Fritz and company doing well. And look, a lot of you know that I've been broadcast high school sports for the past 9 years and was the prep editor here at the Times-Picayune for quite a while. And it's great to see a lot of the guys that I covered. Tajay Spears was fantastic at Ponchatoula. I mean,
He's really good.
I knew that kid was going to be something special, but I don't think I knew how special. And I think he's an NFL talent.
Definitely.
I think he's going to be playing on Sundays real soon. And
I think he's going to come out. He took part in the senior day festivities. I think he's definitely going to come out for the draft, and I think he's the best running back they've had since Forte. I mean, he's really good.
Yeah, I agree, and so it's going to be fun to watch him in the NFL. All right, before we get to our predictions, and I do have a couple of the Saints comments that we'll get to when we get to the prediction part of the show. Got to talk about the Pels, and they have turned things around a little bit. They have now won 3 in a row. This homestand has been good for them. They were a little shaky last Saturday against the Rockets, but then putting things together against the Grizzlies and the Bulls, get the Celtics at home tonight. 12-3 Boston Celtics. They are playing really well, but Celtics actually have a couple of injuries. I know Marcus Smart was hurt for the last game. I'm not sure if he's playing tonight or not, but so the Pels without Zion Williamson once again. I don't know why they seem to play better when Zion's not in there.
Yeah, look, I think this tonight is a big measuring stick game for Willie Green and the staff. Find out where they're at. I think it's a game time decision on Zion. I haven't seen if he's in or out, but I know he's questionable. Look, they've got to at some point get all those guys on the court so they can start identifying their roles, how they play together, get the rotation set. But I really like the way the bench has come on. Larry Nance Jr. has been incredible.
Yes, he has.
He's clearly, their 6th best player right now. I mean, when he's in the lineup, I like how they finish the games too with him on the court. We know Jose Alvarado is a spark plug. He's been incredible. And
Trey Murphy is going to be a stud.
And the development of Trey Murphy is just that guy's got a huge ceiling.
He really does.
And
he could be a real NBA star.
And Dyson Daniels is starting to work into the rotation. I think he's going to be a really good player. So it's a lot of reason to be optimistic about the Pels.
Yeah, and then they get the Warriors on Monday to finish off this long homestand. The Warriors I think are starting to get a little bit healthier, so that's not going to be like the first time they played them. It'll be a little bit different before they go off to San Antonio and go back on the road. So Pels got a lot going for them right now. I still think this is going to be the team that we thought they were going to be, which is a 3, 4, 5-ish kind of seed type team, which would be fun. And look, I mean, they don't have to win an NBA championship for us to have fun as fans and sports writers. So that's all we're looking for, Dunk. We're just looking for progress, and I think this team is certainly on the road to make that next big step.
Yeah, I think that win against Memphis gave them a lot of confidence because
I agree.
They did it without Zion, and that game was kind of up for grabs, and then they just seized the game by the throat and really finished it off well. And when C.J. McCollum has his shot, when he's knocking that down, which he has the last few games, they're a different team. They're much better offensively. He's been struggling a little bit to start the season, and he's found his rhythm and found his confidence, and that makes them a lot more dangerous offensively.
No doubt about it. And so they play tonight at the Smoothie King Center. If you can't catch them tonight, Monday. I know a lot of you, the kids are off of school. Perfect chance to take the kids to the Warriors Pelicans game on Monday night at the Smoothie King Center. Should be a lot of fun as we continue to watch the growth of the New Orleans Pelicans. And we're going to finish the show with this. The Rams and Saints are about to make our prediction. Trav, I think you misunderstood what I said. How can I feel confident that Saints win 6 or 7 games the way we play? I'm not confident the Saints will win 6 or 7 games. I never said I was confident that the Saints would win 6 or 7 games. I said they can win 6 or 7 games. Not confident in anything. I mean, Saints might be the hardest team to predict in the league right now. Although if they stick with Andy Dalton the rest of the year, I think they're going to win closer to 5, maybe even 4. I mean, I think we're going to get in our prediction right now, and then I'll tell you some other things. But Dunk, let's get into it. Rams, Saints. Rams are, again, same boat as the New Orleans Saints. They have their issues. Matthew Stafford has played awful. They have 0 running game. They have a decent defense, but they can't do anything on offense, and the Saints are 3-point favorites. It might be the last time the Saints are favored all year, except maybe against Carolina.
I like the Saints. I don't know why I like them. I think of the lesser of two evils here. I feel like LA has just packed it in, and I just feel like the Saints are going to be the more desperate team. And sometimes in the NFL, that's what it comes down to. I think they somehow managed to get 19 points and win this thing like 19-13 or something.
I'm sort of with you. I think they win, but I don't know if they cover. And I agree. I'm kind of with you. I don't know why I like them because I think that, again, I don't know how to stress without saying the same things that I've said over and over again. I think that if Andy Dalton comes out and plays super poorly, I think you may see a change during the game. I know they don't want to do that, and that's not of the Saints' ilk. So I think that there's a chance that happens. If not, then look, I don't care who plays quarterback next week. They're not beating the 49ers. So they have a tough road to hoe. This is one that they have to win. If they lose this game on Sunday, I'm going to make a prediction. I don't think the Saints are going to win another game. I think it's going to be L's. If they don't win on Sunday, they're done. I mean, if you can't beat this team, and I'm talking about even the Panthers. Panthers are on the schedule the last week of the season. By then, nobody's going to care in that game. The Panthers won't care. The Saints won't care. Nobody's going to care. And so if you have any minuscule chance to make something of this season, even if it's not make the playoffs or win this crappy division, got to win this game because you're not winning next week. Maybe you can give yourself some kind of momentum to play against Tampa. I don't know.
Look, one subplot here that's kind of noteworthy historically. Cam Jordan has a really bad eye. He got, I think, poked in the eye.
Really?
Shiner. Yeah, he didn't practice on Wednesday. I don't know if he practiced on Thursday or not, but there's a possibility he doesn't play. That's significant. He's missed one game in his entire career, and that was because of COVID last year. He's been on a remarkable run. This would be the first game he's ever missed because of an injury, and I know he wants to play, and he might end up playing because he's a tough dude, but it's 50-50 at this point.
Well, that would be a shame to not see Cam Jordan out there because, again, the Rams have no running game whatsoever. They can't run the ball at all. So, I mean, when it comes down to is can you put enough pressure on Matthew Stafford and can you find someone to cover Allen Robinson, who's been awful this year, and that has been a terrible signing for them. He has not been a part of their offense whatsoever. Tyler Higbee, or does that make anyone scared? I don't think so. So they just don't have anything on offense. And I know the doubters are saying, we're going to be Rams get right game. I mean, you're probably the same guy who said the Saints were going to go 15-2 before the season started too. We got one of those on Bayou Bet Show. I mean, don't be a downer if you weren't a downer in the beginning of the season. You can't go from 15-2 to 2-15. It doesn't work that way. But hey, we were all wrong in the media so far. Maybe it'll turn out right. The Saints could they still could go 10-7. I mean, we could still be right.
That's true. Although I think I picked them to go like 11-5.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was way out of line. 11.
I picked 10-7, so I still have a chance to be right. But for me, I have the over 7.5 wins, so I'm like super vested. I'm still holding out hope, not much, but I still have a little bit of hope that they can get past that 7.5 win plateau, and I could still cash that ticket. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's got a shot.
The one thing I was right about, if I'm going to beat my chest, was
please.
This was not going to be fans, like everybody does. It's not just fans. Everybody gets caught up in training camp. Everyone was going crazy that this was going to be some high-flying offense. They were way overestimating Jarvis Landry and the receiving core.
Right.
People, I was getting into debates at camp. Listen to this, JD, with other reporters saying that this was the best group of perimeter weapons in the history of the Saints. I go, you're crazy. You think this is better than Darren Sproles, Jimmy Graham,
right.
That group in 2011? It's not even close.
Even if they were healthy.
Yes. No, I'm talking about when they're healthy. They're not nearly that 2011 team. This is how good they were. The running backs on that team were like Mark Ingram, Pierre Thomas, Darren Sproles, and Chris Ivory was the fourth running back. The guy could run for 100 yards on anybody. They were incredibly deep, incredibly talented.
And Drew Brees at the prime of his career.
Right. People were getting caught up in how good this offense was going to be, and I knew this was going to be more of a pedestrian kind of grinded out offense, get in the 20s, lean on the defense. That was going to be the formula.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't paid off because they've had so many injuries. It's all kind of fallen apart on them. But that was going to be the formula. It wasn't going to be some, we're back to the glory days of Saints offense. That was never the plan.
Real quick before we go, it's kind of weird. If you took the records out of here and you were like stuck in a cave for the past 2 months and you took the records off of this thing and you looked at this, the first thing I would say is, A, what the hell is wrong with the Rams? But B, you'd say, okay, the Saints are right about, maybe not in rushing defense and certainly not in rushing offense. But if you looked and said the Saints were 13th in offense and 10th in defense, you'd say, they probably underachieved a little bit, but they're probably like 6-4, 5-5.
Right.
That's what the stats say they are. But
those stats are misleading.
They really are.
They made a lot of those yards and playing catch up when the opposing team is the best example of that was that Cardinals game where once they got down by 14 points right around halftime with those pick sixes, the Cardinals went to kind of a soft cover 2. They allowed Andy Dalton to check down Charlie. They'll let you move they'll let you move the chains in exchange for time off the clock. And then they start playing situational defense when you get to the red zone. That's how NFL teams operate. They let you get those yards between the 20s. So you build up a lot of yards and your offensive ranking goes up. But some of the advanced statistical metrics, I think, would probably tell you a different story about their offense.
Well, Dunk, it's been an interesting week. Look, I hope we have something fun to talk about. I hope I have something fun to talk about on Mondays. I'm tired of writing scripts on Sunday nights that make me want to just cry or go to sleep or whatever. I want to write a happy script, even if it's just 1 week. If they play well this week, it's going to be a happy script. That's how things change in the NFL. They're 3-7. They go to 4-7. 4-7 sucks, but it sure beats 3-9. So, or 3-8, excuse me, because they're going to be 3-9 if they lose this one because they're going to go to San Francisco and lose. But hey, who knows? We'll see what happens, and hopefully next week on Dattitude on every Friday 9:15 a.m. we can have a little bit fun, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be doing it from San Francisco next week. Looking forward to that. Maybe my favorite city in the country next to New Orleans. And if the Saints get a win, look, things change. The Mizzlements, they need to get the swagger back. We don't see that swagger that Alvin Kamara was talking about at all right now. They definitely need to get it back. And I think they'll win on Sunday, and maybe it gives them a spark that they can put this thing back together.
It's amazing what one win can do, and we'll see if they get there. We thank you for joining us here on this live Dattitude. Again, Duncan and I do this every Friday at 9:15 a.m. on all of the NOLA.com and bet.NOLA.com stations. And when I'm done, I'm going to go add my monologue to it in our close, and I'll put it up wherever you get your podcast. Search for Dattitude. It has been a fun one. We thank you for joining us. I will talk to you on Monday on our regular Dattitude. Until then, enjoy your weekend. Stay warm. Stay warm. It's going to be cold this weekend. And enjoy the weekend, LSU-UAB and Saints and Rams on Sunday. We'll talk to you on Monday. See you later, everybody.